name is NJ Ayuk. I am the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber and also author of A Just Energy Transition. But I've written a bunch of books, but this one is even more important. We live at a time when climate and energy issues really dominate worldwide conversation. Worldwide conversations in how we are going to have a sustainable climate, a sustainable future, but also poor people across the global south, emerging countries, especially in my home continent, Africa. Writing this book about climate and a transition took me out on a whole journey. I saw that journey as my own journey as a kid born in Cameroon who never had a shot or had a chance, but had the most amazing opportunity to be educated and trained and given a lot of opportunities in no other place but a magical country called the United States of America. Those opportunities opened doors. Those opportunities gave me hope. Those opportunities told me that if you work hard, you play by the rules, and you really drive up what is necessary for our communities, we can be better. But at a time when we look at a transition, we look at climate change and energy poverty. I tend to believe, writing this book, that climate change and energy poverty are two sides of the same coin. Now, some people might not agree with me on this, but I tell you this big idea. But beside big idea, big realities. When I lived in the United States and in Europe, I didn't see a day off without lights. I didn't see two young women scrambling around in villages in huts trying to find out electricity so their kids can have a shot at life. What I saw every day was flashes of hope and seeing people going through their ordinary lives and setting out distant shores to really bring up hope and opportunities and develop and in pursuit of the American dream. The American dream kept rolling across my eyes, and I kept asking myself that question: why not in Africa? Why not in our continent? Walking in this continent and pondering and thinking about this book, I'd get to realize 600 million Africans don't have access to electricity. 900 million don't have access to clean cooking technologies, most of them women. We cannot meet those sustainable development goals of the United Nations. We cannot meet our human rights obligations when it comes to improving the lives of people, and especially poor people, without that electricity. But then it can just say, those of us that have been successful, we have something bigger. And we need to think big and do something bigger than our own personal interests. To go out and pursue and find ways to really create hope and those opportunities that we could. But now when I think about this book, A Just Transition, what does it mean for Africa? What does it mean for our world? Africa has contributed just less than 3% of greenhouse gas emission. But African countries are being told to abandon their resources in the ground in pursuit of renewables. How do we tell the skinny kid in class to stop eating while the fat kids keep eating and gaining more weight? That is unfair. When the crisis in Ukraine and Russia broke, as I wrote in my book, a lot of the Western and wealthy nations resorted back to burning coal and using gas and using oil. More oil, and oil demand has increased bigger than even before COVID pandemic. But you still have Africa with nothing, being told that you cannot use your resources to industrialize, power your people. And if we do that in Africa, we get a chance to build Africa from within. Our young people don't have to cross the Mediterranean to go find greener pastures in Europe. Some of them actually die in the seas trying to cross. And that is wrong. Our young people don't have to try to go to the Middle East and work in Dubai and have to be treated sometimes unjustly. We think there can be hope right here at home. That's why as we set out this discussion, I kept thinking about this book. And I said, I'm going to pour my heart into this. And I'm going to speak to the world from Africa, from an African perspective. What is that African perspective? That African perspective comes into what I see and what I would say a discussion around a just transition. I never had the matter of a just transition as a topic of this book. But as I kept going through this book and I kept discussing it, it kept ringing through my ears. And I would sometimes in solitary discussions, this same topic kept coming because the transition has to be just. Why? Because we in Africa need affordable, abundant, and available energy that is really going to drive our people. How can it be just? It can be just when we start to ensure that that young girl in Mozambique does not have to go a day without electricity, or that family in Niger we don't have to stay without energy. But I want you to think about these few things. A family in Tanzania uses as much electricity in a year than a refrigerator in the state of Alabama. Just think about that. A family in Tanzania uses in a year the same as much electricity as somebody in the state of Alabama. They are energy poor. Energy poverty is real. It is real. And as we look at that, we say, where do we find solutions? Let's have some big ideas. Those that have polluted the most, those that have contributed to the climate catastrophe that we find ourselves, need to put in the huge, massive amounts of billions of dollars to support those poor nations so that they can stop using coal and move into renewables. And when we say that we're not asking for aid, I don't believe in aid. I believe free markets are still the best path to prosperity. But they need to be investments. Investments that when we invest in women, invest in young people, invest in tech hubs across Africa, that would be able to drive technology that deal with carbon capture and clean tech and all of that across Africa. That is really going to make us strong. It's going to create market profitability, and it's going to help us be able to dominate and build and not rely on foreign aid in order to drive this. But also the big thing is that we have an obligation to really ensure that those of us who are big fans of electric vehicles, to ensure that those extracting the minerals are treated well and are treated with respect. But as we look at Africa's abundant history and abundant and available green hydrogen, potential for green hydrogen, we can use we can harness our sun, our wind, and really be able to drive on green hydrogen as a fuel of the future. That is important. But I'll close with this. We got to look at what has happened where fossil fuels are still part of our economies. It has improved human civilization. It has created a path where we can be able to make medicine, improve human life expectancy, and giving people a shot at having better life and a better future. That in itself is where hope comes. But we also understand that, as the former Saudi oil minister said, the Stone Age didn't end because of the lack of stones. We also believe that there's something new and there's something better. But we also believe that we should refrain from the demonization of oil and gas, especially when most people in Africa need it, to finding solutions to our climate crisis. We employ pragmatism, we employ common sense, and I bring this all in this book because I believe that when we do that, when we have pragmatic common sense solutions to such a difficult problems, we start creating hope. We start building. But Africa also have a role to play. We need to open up our systems. We need to fight against resource nationalism. We need to really start increasing our enabling environment to make it easy to doing business. Because we also need to reject the idea that we're going to have electric vehicles across our continent when people don't have light. How are you going to drive a Tesla without electricity? We need to move from cutting trees to gas before even going into solar. We need to stop really depleting our resources in a very, very unjust way. I implore you to read A Just Transition. And I also implore you to reach out, contact me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and I would be very willing to share questions and answers and tell our story. Because I implore you to think with this. One of my greatest heroes in history is Martin Luther King Jr. said the arc of a moral universe is long but it bends towards justice. But Dr. King understood one thing bigger. It doesn't bend by itself. It's everyday people like you and me that really shape it. if we all come together and shape that, then we are getting somewhere to make energy poverty history. Thank you so much, and God bless. And I look forward to hearing and from you, and I look forward to you participating in these conversations. And never give up. We are going to get there together. Thank you.